Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to Britton's Hangout Hour, episode 172. It's wild we're already here. I'm here today with Michael K. Vaughan over at Stately Vaughan Manor. Very glad that we could meet here today. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, doing very well. Thank you.
Yeah,
172, that's impressive.
thank you. I know once I started this iteration of my BookTube channel, I'm like, well, I gotta get going on this. I got tons of people I can talk to. So there we go. And yeah, like I said before we started this, I really like your channel.
Appreciate
Uh,
that very much.
I appreciate that there are more people who talk about pulp than Razor Fist, because I don't really like Razor Fist's channel, but we won't go too far into that. So you're far
I,
less incendiary. I'll say that. I don't know
no,
if you're
no comment.
I don't know if you're familiar with Razor Fist, but yeah, I'll just keep it there. Put the
Yeah.
pen there. But I'm glad that there is someone who likes pulp and comic books and classic literature as you do. So
Yeah, there were few of us when I started about 5 years ago. Now it seems like there are quite a few people talking about the stuff that I like to talk about. So that's kind of nice to see.
yeah, like you're probably like the only one out of like three or four people who talk about the Shadow. So or not the Shadow, not the Shadow. I mean Solomon Kane, but also the Shadow.
Yeah,
There's a little more people who talk about the Shadow, but Solomon Kane is what I meant to say.
yeah. My second favorite Robert E. Howard character, but even Solomon Kane is gaining some popularity nowadays.
Oh, is
Uh,
he? Oh, that's nice.
Recently, there was a pastiche novel published, a Solomon Kane standalone pastiche novel, which is interesting because I didn't think I would ever see that, but it exists. So somebody must like Solomon Kane other than me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. The book I wrote kind of started out as a Solomon Kane fan thing, but then I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't know what I want to do would work with Solomon Kane because he's kind of this like force of nature,
Hmm.
kind of like a Puritan Punisher for lack of a or like a
Kind of,
Puritan
yeah, kind of
or
in
a
a way.
Puritan version of the Shadow. I don't know if that
Hmm.
would work very well if you try to humanize that a little bit. So I had to I did keep the warrior Puritans though. So there you go.
Mm, there you go. Good.
Can't go wrong with warrior Puritans.
And what was your book? Remind me what your book was.
I haven't published it yet, but it's called A
Ah,
Plague of
as yet
Nightmares.
unpublished.
Yeah, still need to get that out there. But anyway, I like your channel. I like your comic book content as well. Makes me feel better about being a 25-year-old man who likes that stuff. So,
Yeah, someday
who
you could be
likes.
like me, a 55-year-old man who likes that stuff. Yeah,
I hope so. I hope so.
yeah,
Hopefully, looking dapper like you do when doing them.
yeah. Yeah, my tastes have never matured. I've always liked exactly the same kinds of stuff that I like now. You know,
It's a good
uh,
thing, It's a good
yeah.
thing. I mean, I go all over the place, but I love my quality superhero stuff when I
Hmm.
can. Though I'm a bit more picky with newer stuff because I don't know, maybe it's just I've seen you and like Steve Donoghue kind of talk about this, but I have been increasingly going back to the older stuff more than
Hmm.
newer stuff recently.
Yeah, I always intend to read more newer stuff, and it just never happens.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I always intend to.
Though I do see you're about to cover Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which I am curious to see how Steve reacts to that
Oh,
particularly.
is there any doubt how Steve will react to that? Probably much ranting will happen on
Oh,
Wednesday
I'm
on
I'm
his
looking
channel,
forward to
I'm
seeing
sure.
what he has to say about the Bill
Yeah.
Key Evely art, because oh man, that was my favorite part of that book. Even
Oh
though
yeah,
I think
the art is amazing.
I do believe it is a tad overwritten, just a tad,
Just a little
just
bit.
just a bit.
Yeah.
But the art in it is just madon.
It's
Just
amazing.
oh my god,
Yeah.
it's
The
so
art is
good.
amazing.
Oh
Uh
man.
yeah, I'll talk about that more on Wednesday, of course, but I will mention I've never read any of King's work before.
Really
Eh,
interesting. Is this your first
Be,
one?
yeah, this is that I'm aware of, unless I've read something by him that I don't know. But I've certainly never read his Batman, which is apparently the thing that gets everybody up in arms.
Yeah, it's his most divisive work. That and
Apparently, it's very divisive. I don't know what he did in Batman.
also Heroes in
I'm curious
Crisis,
now.
which is like a event comic. Don't read that. It's not very good.
What is that?
It's Heroes in Crisis. That's a
He wrote Heroes in Crisis. Okay, I have read.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
blocked it out of my memory because that was legitimately terrible. This,
It's one of
uh,
those cases.
yeah,
Good idea, done badly. So there you go.
I'm not sure it was a good idea though. To tell you the truth, do we really want to watch our heroes in therapy? I don't
Well,
know. Maybe it's an
I
interesting
like the idea.
idea.
I'll put it that way. I like the idea. I just didn't like how it was used. But
I
maybe
guess you
the
could have made a good comic about it.
maybe the classic comic book fans don't like that. I don't know. This I could see Steve shaking his fist and going off on a tirade
Oh
about
yeah,
the Stanley virus is at its nth here.
the Stanley virus will be making an appearance this Wednesday. Fear not.
Oh, I imagine it will.
Turn.
I'd be disappointed if it didn't. But yeah, no, but yeah, man, I'm like I'm gonna follow Bill Kiev, though I'm often frustrated with Tom King. So I'm curious to see what you guys think of that.
Yeah, I I have a strong I don't know for sure, but I have a very strong suspicion that Steve will hate it. Um, I have mixed feelings about it. There are some things I really liked about it, and there's some things I didn't like so much, and they're probably predictable things. But yeah, I'll definitely get into that on Wednesday.
I hope he likes the art at least, because I would be so sad if Steve just started. I wouldn't see why he wouldn't like it, but I would be
It would.
really sad to see if he just crapped on Bill Kievly's art.
I think it would be hard to crap on that art. You know, you would really have to shake your head if he didn't like that. It seems to me because it's beautiful. It has such style. It's perfectly suited for the story. Uh, Everything works for me with the artwork in that. So but we'll see.
Yeah, I was telling a friend of mine, I'm like, the art is just excellence,
Hmm.
but it's kind of a pain in the ass to read.
It has its challenges. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like reading. I don't know if you've ever read From Hell from Alan Moore, but it's I mean
Hmm.
not quite as historically dense, but oh man, it can be kind of laborious to read at times.
I guess it could be. I read that. I read From Hell years ago. When did it come out?
I
Was it
think it
the
was
early '90s?
'93.
Yeah, early '90s then. And from what I remember, it came out as a limited series, maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's how I must have read it. And I guess if I were to sit down and read the whole graphic novel from one end to the other, it might strike me like that. But at the same time, as you said, an old school comic book reader, and so I've read a lot of comic books from the 1960s, which tend to be very dialogue dense.
That's fair. Yeah, I need to
Yeah,
I need to read more of that. Quite
yeah, because
fond. Oh, sorry. Finish your
because
thought.
back in the day, when Stan Lee would write a comic book, for example, every panel had to have somebody saying something
That's
or a
true.
caption.
Yeah.
And I think he felt like if he didn't have that, people weren't getting their money's worth. They weren't getting their 30 cents worth of comic book if they didn't have that many words. Fortunately, he got over that over time. But yeah, those early '60s comics in particular,
Yeah, he
they
realized
could
he
be.
had geniuses like Jack Kirby and Steve
Yeah,
Ditko, and he's like, I should probably use these guys' artistic ability a little more.
probably.
But no, yeah, I am looking forward to that video, to those videos. I don't know. Anyway, um, I guess I should ask the age old question to kind of get started on this little chat here.
Sure.
Um, but what enticed you to start reading like pulp and the type of stuff that you like to read? Which I know, very generic question, but it's a good. I think it's a good open ended question as well.
Uh, I always liked adventurous stuff, and I have a very high tolerance for melodrama,
Hmm.
and I just always liked that kind of thing. The first book I ever read was Dracula, That was the first adult book I ever read, and I read it when I was a little kid. And I didn't understand a lot of it, but I knew I liked it, and there were certain scenes in that book I really loved.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was already on the path to kind of fantasy adventure type of stuff. And I had heard of a series of books that Edgar Rice Burroughs had written, the Mars series.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a library because my mom was very nice when I was a little kid. She always took me to the library, and there was a book about science fiction.
Oh.
And in this book about science fiction, it started talking about this series about John Carter from Earth who went to Mars and met all of these different Martians and had all these different adventures. And I remember thinking, this sounds like the greatest thing I'd ever even heard of. And so I always kept my eye out as I was getting older for those books. And I finally found them. And I read A Princess of Mars, and I was just hooked. I was hooked on that kind of thing. And that probably was my gateway into pulp, really.
Mm-hmm.
That and shortly after that, I think it was shortly after that, I read Almeric from Robert E. Howard.
Oh, I've not read that one
And
yet.
yeah, and that definitely hooked me. It's not Robert E. Howard's best book, but it features his writing, and his take on the John Carter scenario is just really, really intense and great.
Oh, I
And
imagine.
and on the cover blurb, it said by the creator of Conan, because of course on paperback covers for Robert E. Howard books, they have to say that. And that really surprised me. I'm like, at the time, I thought Conan was just a Marvel comic book character that I liked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it didn't really compute to me when I was a kid that he was, created in the 1930s by this guy Robert E. Howard, who was writing in pulp magazines. So immediately I had to start finding that stuff, and I hunted down everything I could find written by Robert E. Howard, and that led me. Yeah,
that must have been interesting because when I imagine when you were growing up, the Del Rey editions, which are the ones I always tell people to go read, which is Robert E. Howard. It's his original work. It says he wrote it. No one touched it. It's not like L. Sprague de Camp or Lynn Carter messed with it. It's entirely what he wrote. Were you able to pick it out, or did you just not care because you liked the Conan stuff?
No, I cared.
Oh, you did.
Like a lot of people did who were into Robert E. Howard, because you could clearly tell the difference in quality, at least to me, between the Howard stuff and the pastiche stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And as I learned more about it as I was picking up those books, it sincerely annoyed me that there wasn't a pure Robert E. Howard edition of Conan available at the time. Carl Edward Wagner did a partial edition of that. He did 3 volumes that were published by Berkeley, if I'm remembering right, that were the pure Robert E. Howard text. So I was happy to get those. But that's why I had a beef with, Sprague de Camp, and a lot of people did, just because I never understood. I don't have a problem with pastiche fiction, but I never understood why they couldn't just publish Robert E. Howard stuff in 6 paperback volumes. And then if they wanted to do pastiche fiction, they could just continue on from there and just do it to their heart's content. I didn't understand mixing it up the way they did. I think that pretty much annoyed everybody who was really into Robert E. Howard. But that fortunately is in the past, and now we have great editions of Robert E. Howard we can read.
Yeah, no, I really like the Del Rey editions I have. I've only read the one, which is the first one called The Coming of Conan the Cimmerian, which is excellent. Has a lot of my favorite Conan stories in there. So I'm really looking forward to getting to the other 2. I just haven't done it yet.
They're rewarding when you do.
I'm sure. It's Robert E. Howard's probably my favorite pulp writer. There's still more pulp I need to read, but just in terms of pulsating, propulsive, pulp, very alliterative. Oh man, I haven't seen anyone beat him.
No, nobody does. He is the greatest pulp writer of all time. He had a particular talent that he kind of lived his stories as he was writing them, and because of that, they draw you in a way that a lot of other authors have a hard time doing. You experience his stories more than you read them. Uh,
Indeed. Yeah.
yeah.
Here, give me 1 second. I don't mean to be rude here, but my cat is pawing at the door. Yes,
No, we
get
can't
in
have
here.
that.
Get in here. No manners whatsoever.
It's all right.
But anyway, sorry about that. But I agree with everything you said, though. um,
And he was very much a pulp writer. He would change his stuff as editors requested. He wrote a lot. I mean, the amount that he wrote is just incredible.
yeah, with the
He worked
short time
hard.
he had.
Yeah, and the short time he had, he worked hard. And yeah, he produced a lot of stuff. Not all of his stuff is of the same quality, but I would say just about all of it is worth reading. And if you're really into the author, it's all worth reading.
Yeah, I've only read Conan and Solomon Kane,
Mm-hmm.
which Solomon Kane's my. You could tell me if this is weird or not, but I think I like Solomon Kane more just because I'm
Mm-hmm.
quite fascinated with the Puritans. I've always had kind of a fascination, but I think like in terms of like writing, I think like Conan is like the better written stuff overall. It's like stronger.
Yeah, because he had some time after Solomon Kane to write more and kind of develop his writing by the time he got to Conan, probably. Although some of those Solomon Kane stories are just amazing.
Oh yeah,
Wings in the Night could be one of the greatest stories he ever wrote. It's just such a powerful, incredible story. And Solomon Kane is such an interesting character,
mm-hmm.
and he has a legitimate character arc that going throughout his stories. His character does change throughout the stories, and he's just a really interesting character to read, and
Mm-hmm.
he is kind of a force of nature in and of himself. It's good stuff. He's my second favorite character after Conan, but I can understand liking him more. Sure.
Yeah, no, I've read like the Shadow as well, but I don't know. I always felt the Shadow was kind of creepy.
Hmm.
Where he's like, "Oh yes, you have fallen for my glorious machinations. You're getting punished." I'm just like, yo, if someone could like reimagine this as like a horror character, I would read the crap out of that. But it's kind of freaky, man.
Well, he was the
Also,
Shadow was that archetype of the dark. You know, uh, the Batman ripped off a lot
oh
from
yeah,
from the Shadow, but the Shadow was like the first that really took advantage of that kind of character. And the Shadow, he was dark and he was creepy, but the best thing about him is that he was mysterious.
uh huh,
You never really knew who the Shadow was or what he was all about because he literally kept his personality in the shadows. He wasn't Lamont Cranston, even though a lot of people thought he was. His real identity was perhaps Kent Allard, the World War I aviator. But even that was in doubt, and so you never really knew the Shadow, which is important because he was judge, jury, and executioner, which no regular human being can be without being a psychopath, right? But since he is so mysterious, he's sort of above us in a way.
yeah, he's
He's
elemental,
almost
if
he's
you will.
almost supernatural, but he isn't. He's it's really the only way you could pull off a character quite like that is the way that they did it. And then you have like the spider, who is probably my favorite character of the type from
Mm.
the pulps, who is a legitimate psychopath. you know, he's just crazy. And
So
I
you
mean,
like
clearly,
you like the more psychotic pulp characters. I see.
I like the spider because like when he has an adventure, whereas the Shadow is distant and emotionless and cold, the spider is all emotion, right? He's just always on the edge of going insane and having an emotional breakdown. And meanwhile, while he's going through his adventures, the the narration will tell you how great the Spider is and how he's like the best crack shot and how he's a master of men and all these things. But when you read the actual story, he's barely getting by. He's always getting
I'll have to
cracked over.
find some of these Spider if they have like an omnibus or something.
Find him. I mean, he's getting cracked over the head. He's getting beat up. I mean,
Jeez.
he's barely surviving his adventures. And by the time you get to the end of the adventure, somehow he defeats the villain. Somehow, because the villain, no matter what book it is, has been kicking his ass the whole book. But by the end, somehow barely survives and beats the villain. And it's like, how? But he manages it. But you are so on edge when you read these stories just because he's on the edge of dying the whole time. And he's crazy. Clearly, he's insane. Because he's got this mission to like fight all criminals. But to a maniacal degree, he's just a lunatic. And it's great. I mean, the stakes are so high in Spider novels because like the whole city is in peril. He's great for city in peril novels. Sometimes the world is in peril. If the Spider doesn't do what he needs to do, like it's the end of all of us. And so the stakes keep getting higher every book, and it's just incredible. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely need to check that out.
I'll have to find that. I hope they have the omnibus of that somewhere.
They have a few banned books.
Band?
It's banned books.
Oh.
They did some reprints of the Spider a few years ago that I think are probably still available. And all of the Spider novels are available. If you go to Amazon, you can get pretty much all of them as print on demand from some print on demand outfit. So you can get them. They're available to read. And I highly recommend them. They're crazy.
It sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Also, kind of going back to the Shadow, I think also what's interesting, the guy who created him, Walter B. Gibson, was an interesting guy. He was kind of, he was a magician as well as like an author, and apparently he either is one of or the most prolific author who has ever lived. That isn't like L. Ron Hubbard, or well, maybe L. Ron Hubbard has the actual award, but I could be wrong on that. You can feel free to correct me.
Yeah, according to him, he wrote on his typewriter until his fingers were bruised and bleeding. And he literally had to take breaks because, his hands were so beat up because he would just write at tremendous speed all day long. And that is incredible because he produced some quality work. He was an interesting guy. You're right about that.
Yeah, I mean, then again, it's funny. I was talking the other day about like, how comics and like science fiction and like fantasy and like pulp, they tend to attract some like really odd people and like odd, interesting people,
Thank goodness. Yeah.
That's true. It's like I was asking a friend of mine the other day, like, can you imagine someone like Alan Moore or like a Steve Ditko or earlier today I was talking about a guy called Ted McKeever. Could you imagine any of those guys doing anything else but comics? And it's like, well, I don't know.
Well, yeah, Steve Ditko would be hard to picture doing anything else. Alan Moore, of course, has his regular gigantic books that he writes nowadays.
That's true.
His
yeah.
prose books. He has moved on from comics, and now he looks upon us with scorn. That's okay.
Yeah. I did see your anatomy lesson video and for Epic Comic Book Wednesday, which I appreciate because that's one of my favorite like single issues. And man, I'm really hoping they do a facsimile of that because they did a facsimile of issue 37, which is the introduction of John Constantine.
It would be a good one to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Though I have to kind of push back a little bit on what you said. I do like the original art from the series a little bit more. I think the coloring's a lot better in that. I saw it in the volume you had. I was like, what is that? What why are you doing that? Don't do that.
Well, you would have an advantage over me because I can't see color.
You
I have
can't?
no, I have monochromatic color blindness.
Oh wow,
So
that's unfortunate.
yeah, so I don't see everything is monochrome for me.
Oh man. So is it like
So I
black
could
and
see,
white?
yeah, I could see quite clearly, but I can't differentiate one color from another. They're just all shades to me.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's been like that since I was a kid,
That
probably when I had a
sucks.
yeah, it's a brain injury. So
So
yeah,
wait, you had a brain injury that robbed you of color?
mhm, yeah.
Huh. Well, I hope it didn't hit a sore spot for you. I was just trying to tease you
No, not at
about
all,
about that.
not at all. But
And
it when it comes to comic books, people do the colors a lot, but that's just something I miss entirely.
oh, okay.
Uh, yeah,
Like now I feel bad.
no,
Probably touched
don't.
a sore spot for him.
It's not a sore spot at all. It's just like one of those weird things. And yeah, but a lot of people commented on the recoloring of uh, the Swamp Thing when they were put into those absolute editions. Um, I'm not exactly sure why they did it. If people like the coloring already, but it seems to be something that they do with absolute editions. I think they're going to do that with Man of Steel, actually. That's what I heard with John Byrne's Man of Steel when they put
Mm.
that out.
That's
But
probably
we'll have
my
to wait and see.
that's probably my favorite Steve just rips on a comic he doesn't like video. Like that was great. I mean, I have no dog in the fight. I'm not read any. Well, hold on. I have done the Claremont Byrne X-Men, which, great. But yeah, I haven't read the Superman stuff, so I don't have a dog in the fight, but that video is hilarious.
Well, yeah, well, he definitely had a dog in the fight because he's been reading those comics since the 1950s, apparently. Um, that was my introduction to the character, though.
Oh
So I can
yeah.
never, so I can never really. I mean, I knew Superman from the movies and the
Mhm.
television show, but I was a Marvel kid, you know, and
Mhm.
so I followed John Byrne over to DC Comics
Mhm. Mhm.
specifically just to read his comics, and he did Superman, and I just loved that comic. Now I could look back and criticize it because of all of the history that was jettisoned when he took over. But at the time, of course, when I was 14, 15 years old, that didn't matter to me. I didn't know any of the history. Later on, I did because I got very, very into the character, and I learned all of the history to the character. But at the time,
It's like me being
yeah,
annoyed with the Batman movies for just kind of just doing year one again. I'm like, look, I love year one. It's one of the greatest comic books ever made. But guys, there are different comics out there. There's a whole wealth of material you could be using, and you're not doing it.
well, they made at least one good Batman movie. I like the last one.
Oh, I did. No,
Uh,
no. I definitely
yeah,
did. I really did. I
yeah.
just, sometimes I can kind of go like feeling a little one note after a while. There's a lot of.
Mhm.
It's like if you could do like
Well,
a Batman the animated series type vibe, but in live action,
yeah,
I would love that. But I don't know.
maybe they will one of these days. Who knows? I think one of the things is that Batman Year One was such a seismic shock. I think even more than The Dark Knight Returns, because The Dark Knight Returns was a possible future of Batman, and it did change Batman completely.
Hmm.
Uh, but Year One was an actual origin story that was published in the Batman comic book. It wasn't a
Hmm. Yeah,
separate It wasn't a separate miniseries. It was a story that was published in the Batman comic as their version of the actual origin. Like it was continuity at the time,
and it's great. It's
and
beautifully done.
and it's yeah, and it's perfect. It's like one of the few perfect Batman stories that exists. It could be the best Batman story. It is so well
It's
structured.
in
It
my
is so
top
well
five.
paced. Yeah, it is. It is brilliant. And so we're sitting there reading this brilliant work. And if you'd read the comics that came right before it and the comics that came right after, neither of those were brilliant. They weren't bad, but they
They
were
did
not this.
recently put out a little. I've been wanting to get in those DC finest. I've been seeing. I was hoping rather selfishly, I'll admit. I was hoping maybe get your thoughts on like what some good like DC finest, because I've been thinking about getting some of those like old, see some of those old stories that are like worth it. I saw they did one for year one and like some of the other comics after
Well,
that.
that was the very first DC Finest that came out, and it was a good one because it was year one and two, and it also had all the stories that came before that and came right after. So it's like this big 600-page book that really puts year one in context. It
Mm.
puts it in with all the other stories that were coming out at the time, which is why I like that book a lot. Uh, and it's well worth reading because at the time it took a while for DC to kind of catch up with what year one did. You know, I don't think they really knew what they had when they were publishing that. And so it took a while for Batman to get to be what he sort of was in year one. In fact, it took a long time. But Norm Brafogel started doing the artwork on some of those Batman
Oh, I
comics.
really like Norm Fogel. Yeah. I
Yeah,
want to read the stuff he did with
yeah,
Alan Grant because heard that's like some really great gems are in that one.
yeah. It's great. And so any of the DC Finest Batman books are well worth getting. They're all good.
Yeah,
You know, they haven't published a bad one.
I did see recently they put out Etrigan the Demon. I have a soft spot for Etrigan. I just he's great. He's just
I look forward to reading that because I think I mentioned in one of my videos, I've never read those. You know,
I still think the
and
best version of the character is
yeah,
from Alan Moore's Swamp Thing run, even over
and
the
that's how I'm familiar with him from
yeah.
that particular run.
Um makes me sad that Alan Moore didn't do more with Etrigan because man, he was great. But yeah, I'd love to get to the Kirby stuff.
Yeah. Oh, he's Jack Kirby. He's worth reading anyway. You know, no matter how goofy he got, he can get pretty goofy. He certainly wasn't the greatest writer in the world,
Oh yeah, no.
but he was always interesting. He was always worth reading. Um, and so yeah, I look forward to that. I
Yeah,
have a soft spot for those like 1970s Kirby things, Common D, and all the other stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like the kind of more grounded characters like Batman or Green Arrow or Daredevil, but I also like the like weird characters.
Hmm.
Like Detective Chimp. Like, what's going on with Detective Chimp? I want to know more about that guy. I
Not
hope.
much right
I
now, I
hope we
don't
get. I
think,
hope we
but
get like. I hope someday we get like a good creator to get a do like a mini series
mm,
of Detective Chimp doing some weird Detective Chimp stuff. Because
you never know.
I saw him
It could
in
happen.
Batman Brave and the Bold cartoon. I'm like, that is
Mhm.
awesome. Because I love primates. I'm like, that's awesome. I want to see more of that. And no one's done anything. It's
Well,
real.
there was at least one collection of Detective Chimp comics that came out. What, last year before, something? But it's out there. Um, and was he in Justice League Dark? I know he showed up somewhere. So Detective Chimp is out there. He's out there somewhere.
Yeah, but I'm like, but I like those kind of weirder characters too, like Swamp Thing. But I didn't really
Mhm.
get into Swamp Thing until I read like the Alan Moore. I was like, whoa. And then I read the Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson stuff. I'm like, this is pretty good too. I mean, Bernie Wrightson, hell of an artist that guy was.
Well, he could be incredible. Some of his early Swamp Thing stuff was a little rough when it came to like the actual human beings that he was drawing. He was great with the monsters. Um, I still think the best thing he ever did was his Frankenstein, Bernie
Yeah, I
Wrightson's
still need to
Frankenstein.
find that. I know that was an inspiration for
Yeah,
the recent movie. The
yeah, big time. There were actually whole scenes that were just like you could just take out of that book and put into that movie, and so you could tell the inspiration when you were watching it. But it's an incredible illustrated edition, originally published by Marvel Comics. I think they did that a couple times. It was reprinted at least once in a smaller hardcover edition, but it's well worth finding. It's fantastic. Yeah, best thing he ever did, I'm sure.
oh yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming. I mean, some of the dialogue in the original Swamp Thing, Len
Mhm.
Wein thing is a little like, oh no, what's that? That kind of Stan Lee type of thing,
Mhm.
where it's kind of there's that it's like it's very melodramatic, is what I'm saying,
Very much so. Which
which
comics
has
I
a
think
charm
were,
to it, which can have a charm
which,
to it, but sometimes you're like, okay,
like I said, I have a high tolerance for melodrama, which is probably from reading all of those comics when I was a little kid, and I never left them behind. I was reading them through the 70s and into the 80s. And the 80s, of course, were were when everything changed in comics.
Yeah, it must have been interesting living through that time because, you know, so many like iconic books came out during that period, like, you know, Dark Knight Returns or Year
And they all
One,
came out in a short
Watchmen.
amount. They all came out in a short amount of time. You had Swamp Thing, you had Daredevil, which everybody was starting to pay attention
Mm-hmm.
to, because Daredevil, Frank Miller came in and he completely changed the character.
Mm-hmm.
So now the version of Daredevil that we think of, it's actually Frank Miller's version,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody was paying attention to Daredevil at that time because it was, not on the same level as the other comics. It was an adult level comic book. And, then Dark Knight came, then Watchmen came, and all of this stuff was happening right around 86 and into 87. And then Crisis on Infinite Earths was thrown in there at the same time, and DC restarted their whole continuity. And so we got Batman Year One, and the less successful Man of Steel from John Byrne. It was successful from as far as making money is concerned, but it certainly wasn't written to the level of Year One. That's for sure. So it was a fascinating time to live through as a reader.
Yeah, I read oh man, what am I thinking of? Also like the Sandman came out at that time, which I
Mm-hmm.
bet that was weird when that came out.
Yeah,
You're like, whoa, what's this? Yeah,
a lot of comics like that were coming out. A
that's
lot of
true.
new and different and interesting comics were coming out right around that time. It was a renaissance period for comics for sure.
Yeah, I'm quite fond of a lot of those comics. I mean, you know, I have complicated feelings about Dark Knight Returns, which I've talked
Mm-hmm.
about before. 40-year anniversary though, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I have things I don't care for about the Dark Knight Returns for sure, mostly Superman related, but it's certainly held up.
I imagine that book was
Yeah,
hard to read as a Superman fan.
it was great for the first two books. Then you get to the when Superman actually shows up and he's like a government stooge, and it's like, oh come on. But it was what it was. It yeah, it's still hard to take.
I do like the movie version where they kind of clean up the because I appreciate what Frank Miller's doing, and I'm not saying the guy can't draw. Guy can make a badass image. I'm telling you right now, but it is just unbearably ugly a lot of the time.
Well, his
It's like a
his
roided out Jack Kirby. Like, what are you doing, man?
that's a good description. His artwork has I don't understand what happened with his artwork because it if you look at the Daredevil stuff, it's great.
Yeah,
You know,
Wolverine. I do like, and
yeah,
he's also magnificent at pacing,
yeah,
like from
yeah,
image to image. He's
yeah.
magnificent at that. But oh
But
man,
somewhere right around the end of the Dark Knight Returns and into everything that happened afterwards, his artwork has just continued to get uglier and uglier, and it's just a bizarre thing. It has to be deliberate, right? I mean, he has to have some reason for making stuff look the way it is. But I have no idea what that could possibly be. I just don't know.
yeah, I saw some people recently going like, "Oh, his turtles thing was pretty good," and I'm like, I don't know. Like that guy's shoulders doesn't look right. Like for
Yeah,
instance, I don't know.
but uh, maybe he gets a pass for the stuff he did in the past. But
Yeah, no,
yeah,
it's just I just don't care for his art. It's I don't know. I think it works in something like a Sin City where it's like meant to be kind of
mm-hmm.
ugly and extreme.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But you know, there are just some panels in The Dark Knight Returns where I'm like, oh God, why? You know, especially when you read Year One and has that just absolutely just gorgeous David Mazzucchelli
Yeah, it's
artwork.
the artwork is perfect in that. Yeah, thank goodness Frank Miller didn't draw that. It could
Oh
have
man,
been something quite different.
oh man, that
Yeah.
I don't want to think of that. But it's like, you know, think of it as like Wolverine mini. I'm not saying he's a bad artist. I just don't care. It just gets ugly. It's just kind of ugly to look at. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, can't explain it.
It's the Frank Miller-ness of it all. Yeah.
But he's done some absolutely great things and some things that just are not so great, and
Oh, for sure.
some things that just boggle my mind in their awfulness. So, uh, but that's the way it goes with creators. Sometimes,
This
some
is
stuff
true. Yeah.
they do really really hits, and sometimes most of what they do doesn't. And a lot of the stuff doesn't just sort of vanishes over time. That goes for a lot of writers. Even some of their good stuff fades away. I mean, think about all the books that Jules Verne wrote.
Oh man.
How many people actually read? You know, People read nowadays maybe 3 of them out of the 60 or 70 that he wrote, and that's the truth for a lot of writers and creators. A lot who can be very prolific. Over time, a lot of their books are, just sort of vanish.
Yeah, yeah, one of the reasons I always get kind of annoyed about the Frank Miller love, I'm like, look, you had Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams doing stuff with Batman that was bringing him back to his dark roots. You got Alan Grant over there with Norm Brayfogle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and this isn't really Frank Miller's fault, to be fair, but, like, come on, guys. Like, maybe it's because I'm a young whippersnapper and I wasn't alive
Mm-hmm.
during that period, but I'm still a bit peeved about it. I do think there are some
Yeah.
other creators who deserve flowers for making
Oh, they
Batman
do,
awesome again.
for sure. For sure. Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams really turned a corner on that character of
Mm.
Batman. Um, but it wasn't the seismic shock that year one was, and I think that's the reason. I think it's because Dark Knight and year one were just so powerfully different
Mm-hmm.
and just so good at the story he was presenting and the version of Batman that he was presenting that it's hard for those things not to overshadow other stuff.
Yeah, no, it's I respect that. It's just kind of like, yeah, no, I don't know. It's like,
And if you think the Batman in particular, by the time even with Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams and some of the other stuff that was going on in the 1970s on Batman, which was good stuff, the public's perception of Batman was Adam West. You know, Literally at that time when I was young, if you mentioned Batman, that's what people thought of, the Adam West show.
mm,
He was a comedy character. He was a guy in tights that when he hit somebody, a big bam would show up, and that's what people thought of when they thought of Batman. It took Dark Knight to change that.
mm-hmm.
You know that movie, Batman in 1989. That could have been a whole, and campy as that was, could have been a whole other
It
thing.
was like gothic
Didn't exist.
campy.
Yeah, but at least it presented a dark character. As campy as it is now to watch, it presented a dark Batman, and Batman just wasn't that outside of the comic books, which nobody was reading in
Mm-hmm.
the general public. Now everybody has the view of Batman that he is a certain, he's a dark character. Uh, but
Maybe not quite the unhinged madman he is in Dark Knight Returns, and
yeah,
yeah, we'll leave it there. But yeah, no, I'll say I do like year one a lot more in terms of again, I just think
yeah, it's great. It's better,
it's like a
and
great
it's a better
meal.
story, and it's just great. And eventually, Batman comics kind of started building on that kind of image of Batman, and it was a little rough here and there, but like I said, any of those DC finest, they're collecting a lot of the 80s Batman. And the 80s was such a great time for that character.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like I said, any of those are good to read because it was such an important time for the character. Probably the most important time for that character since the 40s, which is saying something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just kind of. Yeah, and I get that. It's just kind of like, oh man, uh, but yeah, no, I know what you mean about Frank Miller though, because I mean, I've never loved him as much as a lot of people seem to. I definitely respect his contributions, and again, Batman Year One is just a bona fide masterpiece. I'm never gonna take that away from him, but it's just like kind of I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a Rorschach test, I guess.
Mhm.
That was a bad analogy.
But we do all look at these things in our own way, and you are from a different time and
This is
place.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have thought about talking about Dark Knight Returns since it is the 40th anniversary, but I don't know how I would be able to okay, how am I going to coherently explain my complicated feelings about Frank Miller without just going off on a nerd tirade that just makes me look like an unhinged lunatic on YouTube?
Well, there are many of us who go off on those tirades and look like unhinged lunatics, so you might as well.
Yeah,
Why
I
not?
guess so. I guess
Yeah.
so.
I've had my share, so.
Yeah, no, I joked with Steve once. I'm like, I bet Dark Knight Returns is not fun to read as a Superman fan. And I asked, hey Steve, which one do you like more, Dark Knight Returns or Year One? He goes, well, Year One, obviously, because Superman gets a far better outing in that story.
Yeah, Steve has very stringent ideas about comics. And
Yes.
so it's always interesting to hear his take on things.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of funny because like he's like railed against like kind of those weirder comics from like Jack Kirby and like Steve Ditko and like the Vertigo guys. I like a lot of that stuff. Some of my
Well,
favorite stuff in comics.
for Steve, comics should be they should be a certain way. And that way, type of comics that Steve read when he was a little kid. If they're not the type of comics that Steve read when he was a little kid, they're not good comics and they're not written the right way. If they're not written like Superboy or the Legion of Superheroes, if they're not old-timey DC comics that, you know, didn't have a lot of continuity and weren't simple, and by the end of the story everything's the same as in the beginning of the story. If they're not like that, they're being done wrong, and it's the degree of wrongness, the further away from that you get. And so he doesn't like anything that's not superhero comics practically. He hates horror comics. He's probably not a big fan of science fiction comics. He's not a big fan of any kinds of comics that aren't a specific kind of
He likes
superhero
Conan
comic.
though. I've seen him.
Well, yeah, he's Conan. That's the great exception. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, and I sometimes watch some of his videos. I'm like, man, I wish you could read like Dark Horse or like Image or some of these like creator owned that's doing some really interesting comics, but I don't know if he'd like those based on what he's going on about.
It's hard to say. I'm always kind of careful about what I pick for Epic Comic Book Wednesdays. I've never gone too far afield. He at least is a Mike Mignola fan, and so
yeah.
and so Hellboy is okay, but if you get into anything periphery to Hellboy, no, that's no good. But Hellboy at least is good. But there are, like, I often toyed of doing a Why the Last Man
Oh boy.
episode, and I just haven't yet. And I probably should, because that comic book meant a lot to me when I was reading it. And I thought it was a little rough in the beginning, but I thought overall, and there's certainly some things in that comic that have not aged well, but it was an interesting book with interesting stories, and it was certainly a really fascinating situation, and the way it was done, and it packed a real emotional punch at the end. And so I've always thought of talking about that, but I probably will have to do that on a non-Epic Comic Book Wednesday episode.
That would be fun. I do like I really like Brian K. Vaughan myself. Like he's never, at least the books I've read, I've not read anything from him that's bad. So, well, We Stand on Guard wasn't that great, but his like series like Saga or Paper Girls or I haven't finished Why Last Man yet, but I have read a good amount of it, and I agree with you. It definitely starts slow, but once it gets in the gear, oh man, it's great.
Yeah, once it gets into gear, it's good. Like the first few episodes were a little choppy. Not bad, not what it became. And I remember thinking, this would actually make a pretty good TV show. Actually, it made a terrible TV show when they finally did it. Uh, it turned out to be the most boring television show that they could have done. And I kept thinking, why is the pace like this? But such is the way of adaptations.
I know. I can't tell you how many like comic books I love have just been absolutely butchered. Like I watched the adaptation for a comic called Deadly Class, which I love that comic. Could make an awesome TV show. I thought it would make an awesome TV show. No, TV show sucked. And they canceled it. Because they clearly didn't care about the source material. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, and
that is preposterous.
And with Y the Last Man, they canceled that, and now they'll never do it again, right? So we'll never see it. We'll never get a good version of that. We'll only have the bad version, which sucks. But like I said, such is the way of adaptations. They're always.
And we still got the comic.
Do you ever watch Randy Ray on his channel?
The literary Texan, yeah.
He did a whole video on adaptations, on movie adaptations, and how they could distort the material, or they could enhance the material, or they can do something else. I don't remember, but I remember watching that video and I'm thinking it always distorts the material. If you're doing an adaptation of any kind, whether it's good or bad, it's going to distort the material. It's never going to be what it is in the book form. It's always going to be distorted, and that's something you just have to expect.
I mean, with Y the Last Man, I'm sure you could do it. Maybe get rid of some of like the early 2000s isms, but I'm sure you could do it. And I heard the TV show was not great, so I didn't watch it. I finished a comic book, so
yeah, it had a glacial pace. Let's just put it at that.
Yeah. It's funny. I was actually complaining to a friend of mine the other day about this about movies. I'm like, they can't flip and pace anything in movies anymore. It's either Marty Supreme, where they could have cut a little bit out of that third act, or I did like the Superman movie, but there are parts that feel kind of rushed through. If that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I like the Superman movie a lot, actually.
Oh, I did too. Yeah.
I think for me, and this could be another sign of my age, for me, the sweet spot for a movie is about 90 minutes long. 90 minutes is probably good for most movies, not all of them. But, about 90 minutes is good for most films. But most films are not that, They tend to go on. But that's probably because 85 to 90% of the films I've ever watched are horror movies, and they tend to be a little shorter and faster.
That's fair. I mean, I guess my favorite horror movie is The Thing. So I don't know how long The Thing is, but
it's probably right around there.
Yeah,
The Thing is fantastic.
Oh, it's great. I was rewatching it not too long ago, and it still holds up. I'm like, this is great.
And it got bad reviews when it came out. I remember that specifically, that it got a lot of bad reviews, and I wonder if it was just too damn scary for people. I don't know, but when I saw it on VHS like a few years after it came out, and it just blew my mind how good that movie was. It was fantastic.
I blame E.T. because apparently it came out the same time E.T. came out, and people loved E.T. and saw it.
Oh,
I bet they saw The Thing. I love E.T. too, don't get me wrong. But, yeah, The Thing kind of got screwed over by how successful E.T. was.
Yeah, everybody loved E.T. There was the mass of merchandise for E.T. was unthinkable. I don't know how much of it has survived, but it was an insane. There was E.T. everything, it seemed like. E.T. was everywhere. I remember that, and it was a good movie, but I was actually surprised they never made a sequel to that, just because it was so damn popular.
I did see a commercial that kind of was like a follow-up, and they got Henry Thomas, the kid who played the kid from the movie, and he's like all grown up, and I'm like, oh, that's not bad. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think it's best left alone.
Yes, definitely. It was a good decision.
Plus, I don't think Spielberg would allow it. I think he has enough clout where he can go, nah, don't do that.
Yeah. If only he had similar restraint when it came to Indiana Jones, but
Oh Lord,
what do you do?
you can't win them all.
No, you can't.
Yeah, no, I actually didn't mind the Dial of Destiny, but yeah, it was kind of, it was like a, it kind of, I mean, it was nice seeing Harrison Ford actually look like he was enjoying himself during the press
Hmm.
tours, because like most of the time he looks freaking bored to be there. But
Yeah.
yeah, just yeah, kind of a wet fart of a movie.
It was weird. It was a weird thing to watch. Um, Again, I'm very old, and so I was there when Indiana Jones started. When it first came
Yeah,
out, and it was weird to sit and watch an 80-year-old Indiana Jones. It was just a bizarre thing, and you have people punching this 80-year-old guy in the face, and you're like, "Don't do that! He's 80 years old." But it was just a weird thing. It was a weird thing to exist, and I don't know how I feel about it. Just to
that's
tell you the
fair.
truth.
Like there were
Yeah.
people who were like, really time travel, but I was kind of like, hey, they literally opened the Ark of the Covenant and like spooky ghosts came out and murdered everybody. Like, come on, like time travel's too far for you. Like, come on. But I
No, the time
digress.
travel bit didn't bother me. It wasn't the plot actually that bothered me. It was the whole thing that I just found strange. You
Just the
know,
whole thing of Harrison Ford being an old man.
yeah, just seeing, and also there was the beginning of that movie with computer generated Harrison Ford,
Oh yeah, yeah.
which he looked pretty good until he started talking, and then he sounded like 80-year-old Harrison Ford. I don't know why they couldn't do something with the voice, but it was just weird. The whole thing was weird. You know, it was unsettling in a way.
Uncanny Valley. If you
It was very uncanny valley, and I feel like the whole movie had a little of that. Just it was strange. I watched it once, and I haven't had the courage to watch it
I'm
again.
surprised they haven't made any like Indiana Jones comics. I mean, they've. I mean, I'm sure they exist, but I haven't read them.
Well, they made a ton of them.
Oh really? Oh,
Uh,
I don't know.
the Marvel Comics had the right to do Indiana Jones comics back in the 80s. It must have been, and they did Raiders of the Lost Ark, a very good adaptation of Raiders of the Lost Ark, which was followed by the Adventures of Indiana Jones Marvel Comics series. And eventually, Steve Ditko was the illustrator on
Really?
Indiana Jones, and he was good because Steve Ditko in the 80s tended not to be good because he did a lot of fill-in work and he did a lot of work for comics he just didn't give a shit about.
Like
And
Squirrel Girl.
yeah, that was probably the best thing he did. But he worked a lot on comics he just didn't care about. But for some reason, he was decent on Indiana Jones. But those comics were only reprinted once by Dark Horse when they had those little kind of digest-sized omnibus collections that Dark Horse did for a while. And if you try to buy those now, they're like $300 or something each, because this is a series, Indiana Jones, that has never been reprinted, probably for rights issues, but they
Marvel's
should
god
reprint
awful
it.
at omnibuses. I was actually talking with a friend of mine about this the other day. DC's been smoking them on omnibuses.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Well, DC's reprint program has totally turned around, which is nice. They were struggling for a while.
like if I wanted to get Walt Simonson Thor, which I've been wanting to read for a long time, like it's like freaking $150. I'm like, look, I love me some comics. I will blow money on comics, but $150 for an Omni? Come on.
Yeah, and they're just now getting to that on Epic Collections, and so they just had the first Epic Collection of Walt Simonson's Thor, and that probably will go 3 or 4 epics. I don't know. Epic collections are too expensive, but you know they're great. Uh, they're a great option if you don't want to get the omnibus. And unfortunately, Marvel Masterworks, which was also too expensive, they died out. Um, but yeah, it looks like we at least will get Epic Collections finally of Walt Simonson's Thor, which is a great run. Just a great fun time on that comic book. And Thor was not good issues preceding Walt Simonson, man. That book had died, you know. Creatively, it was just
I'm considering maybe reading that in 2027. So for anyone who might be curious about any of that, so there you
yeah.
go. I'll just leave that here.
But it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I read some of the Jason Aaron Thor, which I quite enjoyed. I haven't gotten to the female Thor. I know that kind of pissed a lot of people off. So
I haven't gotten to that yet either.
I don't really care about that. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that because I know it's kind of a prickly topic for people. But
Which part is that? Replacing Thor with female Thor?
yes.
Well,
Maybe it's just because again I'm a young whippersnapper and you guys are like old men. I don't know, but it's kind of like she's female. Okay, like sure, it might be a bit gimmicky, but if it's done well, I don't mind.
it depends. It depends on what it is. That kind of thing, like gender swapping characters. I think it depends on the character, and it depends how well they do it. It worked well in Battlestar Galactica, for example, with Starbuck. I mean, now we think of Starbuck, you think of that Starbuck. You don't think of OG Starbuck from the 1970s. It worked very well there, but there was no reason to do it in the last Fantastic Four movie, for example, except that they wanted to get a certain amount of female characters in the movie in what otherwise would be a male-dominated movie. There's no other reason, and that is not a legitimate reason to change that character, the Silver Surfer, to a female character. And one of the problems I have with, I don't think it's because I'm old, but one of the problems I have with changing established characters to be either different people, you know, just so that they can be of a different race or a different sexual orientation or whatever. Usually it's done only for that reason, you know. And the excuse you get, because my thinking is, you know, you could always make different comics. You can make new comics with new characters.
Sure,
who are diverse. You can do it, and I think maybe I'm completely naive, but I think if those comics are really good, people will buy them. You know, but what publishers will say is that no, nobody will buy them. The only way they will read about a gay character is if you put that gay character in an established book, right? Otherwise, you won't. It will be an unsuccessful comic if you just try to make like a gay superhero in his own book. And I just don't buy it. I think that if that is the excuse you're using,
sorry.
If that's the excuse you're using, then I think you're admitting that your medium is just creatively bankrupt, right? You can't make new stuff, so you have to write on the coattails of older established books. And I think that's part of what bothers people.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. I'm not saying it's not. It's just like there's sometimes I think some of those, what do you call it? Again, there's sometimes where I see people getting mad. It's like, oh, there's a female in this. And I'm like, who fucking cares?
Well, I recently had an email exchange with a friend of mine who found out I was reading a Tom King comic.
Oh boy!
Right? And this guy,
the totally non-controversial Tom King. And
this really shocked me because going into reading that, I had only heard good things about Tom King. Really, I had heard great things. I heard he was really good. I heard he won all these awards. I heard wonderful things about Woman of Tomorrow. So I thought, hey, he's probably a great comic book writer. And so I just started reading this comic. And then I get this email. It's like, I can't believe you're reading Tom King. I hate Tom King. Tom King's the worst. He's a terrible, right? He's awful. He's terrible. And I'm like, and I emailed him back. I said, what did Tom King ever do to you? Because you're writing to me as if Tom King murdered somebody that you love. And then he wrote me back and he said, he did. He killed Alfred.
Yeah, I did do that.
And I'm like, listen, Alfred's not real. He's not a real guy. He didn't really kill Alfred. And Alfred will come back because you can't kill comic book characters permanently. They always come back. It might take a while, but they always come back, always. And so he didn't really kill Alfred, but he was so angry, like viscerally angry about probably everything Tom King, because he apparently killed Alfred.
I mean, I have my gripes with Tom King, but that getting mad that he killed a character you like, that come on.
I don't know if that's the only thing he did. Apparently there was some controversy with his Catwoman and Batman marriage thing.
Apparently yeah. That was, oh man.
Apparently
I remember when that happened.
Apparently that didn't go well.
No, it did not.
Yeah, but it's all part of what you could refer to as geek outrage culture. You know, where we take things very, very seriously and then fight about them. And really, you know, it's like Star Wars fans. You know how angry they get about everything.
Yeah, no, I was reading. Yeah, no, I remember. I think one comic you would like from Tom King, if you do ever read any more and aren't turned off completely by Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. I really liked Superman Up in the Sky from him quite a bit.
I have that.
That's probably his best like straight superhero story that I've read.
Yeah,
so
somebody
far.
sent that to me, and I'm going to read it. I mean, I liked Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Spoiler alert: I liked it.
Oh,
you know, and so I had some.
Well, you
problems
sounded
with
somewhat
it.
mixed on it from what we were talking about earlier.
Well,
which I get why. I'm not really aside from that just awe-inspiring artwork.
The one thing that I found peculiar about that book is the dialogue.
Oh yeah.
And if you have a
Tom
main
King
character
loves his Ben to speak, as they say.
So you have a main character who is like this farm girl from a rock farm, whatever that is, and she has a very particular way of speaking where, you know, she will use 20 words when one would do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so dialogue covers the page whenever she's narrating the story, and she's the narrator of the story. So that was peculiar. But a lot of the characters, including Supergirl at times, talk in a way that just sounds weird to the ear. Like the dialogue seems a little off.
Oh, you mean like when Supergirl's getting drunk off her ass and beating up those dudes?
Not just there, but in other parts of the story, the dialogue just sounded weird to me. It just, particularly if you were to say it out loud, it just sounds at times unnatural. You know, it didn't sound like a natural way of speaking. And so when I read it, not all of it, but a lot of it kind of sounded that way to me. But that was not an unforgivable sin, you know.
No, I just thought I personally thought the way it was written was rather clunky. I'm like,
yes, clunky is a good way to put it.
Where I'm just kind of like, you have this frickin' amazing artist right here, and you're not gonna use her to the fullest advantage? What is wrong with you, Tom King?
Well, I think maybe one of the things about that is that I don't think that the captions and the dialogue quite matched the pace of the art, right? It slowed it down. And I think it slowed it down a little too much.
Yeah.
So that if you're reading the thing, you're slowed down to read all the captions and all the narration, and the actual artwork was flowing quite well, and then you're slowed down to a crawl when you're reading her narration.
Yeah, no,
And
I agree with you on that.
yeah,
It's
and
just
that was the thing that kept it from being a great book to
I
just being a good book. You
I
know,
know I know it's probably kind of weird to say, but I didn't love the ending either. I was like, what
well, the
happened?
ending was weird because it
Oh,
because she was like, girl, okay, so killing is wrong, but lying is fine. Lying is all right. And so she lied the whole time about the dog, which you had to wonder about because they've been out there for months, and it's like, is this the slowest acting poison in the world? How is that dog not dead by now? By the time you get back,
I did like seeing Crypto. I do have a soft
yeah.
spot for Crypto.
Crypt, but Crypto wasn't in the book enough. Let's face it, he's the greatest comic book character of all time. But there's that, and the ending in particular, it was just so. When I first read it, I thought, did she just kill this dude?
Yeah,
Did
no,
she
she
just
just like whacks him with a cane. You're like, what was that? We,
so did she kill him after all, and they just both kind of walked away? But
like, what are you doing? I know
no,
it's and
but
it
I think
has.
she just
Sorry,
hit him in the head. What's your take on that end?
I don't
And
know. That's the thing.
yeah,
It's
it's
like
ambiguous.
I know it's like hold on. I just let me think about how I'm gonna say this. It's like he comes out of the Phantom Zone and he's all like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry what I did," and she's like, "Heh," and then she smacks him in the head. I'm like, "What are you doing? What was that? What? Wait, what? What were you thinking?" If I ever could have Tom King on this show, like what we're doing right now, I would probably ask him, "What were you intending to do with the
Yeah,
ending of
it would be
Woman of
interesting
Tomorrow?"
to know the intention, but at the same time, I'm wondering if we should never know because it is just such a weird ending, and maybe
It sounds like you
that
just
is
think it's a weird book overall.
yeah, it's just a weird book, but that character, uh, the villain, whose name I'm forgetting right
It's
now, is it
Krem. It's very,
Krem?
very, very
It's Krem
Conan
of
like.
the Yellow Hills. He is such a shit
That's a
that
that's a badass name
terrible.
too.
Yeah, I mean, by the third issue or whatever, when he's running around slaughtering all people for having, just out of the fun of it, I was thinking, this guy has to go. You know, I know killing is not Supergirl's thing, but maybe an exception in this case, because he was the worst. And so I didn't actually mind him getting cracked in the head at the end. It just is a
No,
weird thing.
like what happened to that whole thing
So
where you're having a conversation about the sanctity of life and then you just smack him in the flipping head and he's freaking
yeah,
head and he's
it
wait.
it just seems it's an odd ending. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like if Superman saved that girl at the end of, or sorry, I'm just spoiling the end of kind of Superman Up in the Sky, but it's like if he brought that girl back and he like slipped and dropped her and she like died. You're like, what was that? Or like maybe
Yeah,
not died, but she like just he slipped and fell, and it's like, oh, and then that's the end of the book. You're like, what was that?
exactly. It was a kind of ending like that. It was bizarre. It was a
That is
bizarre
not the
ending.
ending
Yeah.
of Superman Up in the Sky, by the way.
Well, I'm
But
glad. I don't have a dead child to look forward to at the end of that book. Then
it's actually
that's
quite
probably a good thing.
heartwarming. But I'm just saying if it ended
Mm.
like him just dropping the girl, like he like slipped and fell and dropped the girl or something, and then it's like, oh, whoops, like a Looney Tunes cartoon, and that's the end of it. Like you're like, what?
Yeah,
What are you doing? I don't know. I don't know.
but it was certainly an interesting take on the character, and I think it was a welcome take on the character because
Yeah, I was curious what you would think of Supergirl's this kind of like burnout, kind of
you
traumatized
know what,
burnout.
Steve will not like that.
Yeah, I'm sure he won't.
He will not like that. I because it makes sense for the character
hmm
because she was not sent to planet Earth as a baby. She actually lived through all this horrific shit,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
before before she was 15 years old, she actually lived through all this stuff, and so she remembers the not only the destruction of Krypton, but all the horrors that came after that. And so it makes sense that she would be the type of character that you see in that comic. It's actually, I think, a refreshing and legitimate look at her because she would be different than Clark.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think the best comics about Supergirl play that up. And this plays it up in a way I haven't really seen before. Perhaps too much swearing on her part. And that just annoyed me because you didn't actually read the swearing. I would have been interested to know what she was actually saying. But otherwise, I liked that take on the character, actually. Quite a bit.
I didn't think it was all bad. Again, it was just like the overwritten prose I thought was kind of like, that was just hard to sit through. And then again, that ending, like, I hate to I don't want to sound like I'm overstating the point. If anyone is here and have read it, you probably know what we're talking about. But
I think it could stand as one of the weirdest single pages in comics. You know? It is.
Hold on, you know what? I'm actually going to pull it out real quick. You entertain the crowd. There's not a crowd here, but where is it? Oh, no, you know what? It's not even in here anymore. It's in my other room.
Well, catch me this Wednesday. Definitely spoil the ending for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow on Wednesday.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But, and here's the thing. There were so many people, like even James Gunn was like, yo, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, that's some tight shit. And I'm like, okay, if James Gunn says he likes it, like, this should be great, right? And it wasn't bad, is what I'm trying to get at. Nothing with that gorgeous Bill Key Evely art, I can't say with a straight face is bad, but man,
the artwork was fantastic, and I had a similar feeling when I started reading it, like the first issue and a half, maybe. I was like, is it just me is the dialogue really this weird? I mean, is it just me? This seems very weird, and it's like you said, kind of clunky and doesn't really flow. And I wondered if it was just me because I was expecting something fantastic.
Yeah.
And this was not that, but it was good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I would say, and it won me over, and so the book did win me over, and I did enjoy it. And when it came out, it wasn't a phenomenal thing. It was just a cool Supergirl story, probably, when it came out. It was just, it was what it was. And the artwork is amazing. And that's probably good enough.
Yeah, and I also read their other collaboration, which is this fantasy book. I'm curious what you would make of Helen of Wendhorn.
I just got that in the mail.
Because it is very expressly about Conan, about Robert E. Howard. And it's basically like, well, what if the Conan adventures were real? I'm curious what you would make of that. I felt it had some of the same problems as Woman of Tomorrow, but again, the artwork from Bill Key Evely is just, it's good.
Well, you'll find out sooner rather than later, because I'm going to read that real soon, because that was sent to me recently. It was sent to me by the same person who sent me Woman of Tomorrow, actually.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh man, again, just a weird book. I can't put my finger on it, and it seems like you can't either.
Yeah, it is distinctly odd, and it has developed a reputation, and I think that makes it odder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm the same way.
It's like, oh, you got to read this book. It's like the greatest thing ever, and they're making the new Supergirl movie, and it's sort of based on this book, and so it's getting a lot of it's got a reputation to it. It's developed a reputation, and so that just makes it weirder when you read it, and it is what it is. But as it stands, I liked it.
That's fair, and I generally would say it's like a 3 out of 5 for me. Like, I'd say I liked it. It's a good story, but it's just kind of like, there's just something about it. I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, it's
this
weird.
Is wrong.
And maybe that's like a Tom King thing. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't read enough to really know. But
I don't know how much you like the Fourth Gods or anything like that, but I'm curious if you ever read Mr. Miracle from him, because that's an interesting book.
I want to
has
read
has
Mr.
has similar
Yeah.
has a similar kind of weirdness to Woman of Tomorrow, actually. So I'm curious what you'll make of
I
that.
think that's kind of the book that kind of gained him his reputation, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I will read it eventually. Yeah.
yeah. No, but going back to that, there is a crypto miniseries I saw that came out recently from Ryan North, who has written a really good Fantastic Four run recently, and I'm like, I want to pick that up because I kind of like crypto. Crypto's super
Crypto's the
dope.
best. He's
Crypto's
always been
awesome.
the best. You know, that was John Byrne's greatest sin was erasing Crypto.
Him and that Ace the Bat Hound, like
That's
the
right.
fact we haven't gotten Ace the Bat Hound is just unforgivable.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get him in the Batman 2, but
I know. Yeah, we're
it's
probably
probably a while
not.
before we see Ace.
Yeah. Anyway, no, it's just kind of I don't know. It's just it's real. It's it's yeah. Again, Woman of Tomorrow, weird book. I don't know what to make of it anymore. Or I still don't know. I read it a year ago, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't know what that was, but it was something.
It was something. It was a weird thing, but you know what? It, it wasn't the greatest comic book in the world. It'll never be in my top 10, but it was. I liked it. But you know, I could see myself reading it again one of these days. Um, we'll see.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, I have thought about reading it again because I'm thinking about discussing it with some friends of mine before the movie comes out because
Mhm.
you know looks promising. But yeah, it's yeah, just a weird book overall.
What I liked about it was mostly the art because it had such a distinctive style, and it was just a beautiful thing to look at.
Yeah.
And it did have Comet, the super horse, so
Yeah, you know what? What's
that was
funny? I
cool.
didn't even know. I'd like to think I'm a pretty big DC fan, but I didn't know Comet the Super Horse was a thing until that comic. So I'm learning new things
That
every day.
I yeah, Comet, the super horse who died a tragic death in Woman of Tomorrow, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Um,
no. You know what the weird thing about you were talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths. I was talking with a friend of mine about it the other day, and he actually read it for the first time, and he's like, you know, this is kind of convoluted.
kind of, yeah, just a little bit.
And I'm just like I'm not a big fan of event comics, honestly. I find them to be really annoying and kind of
Mm,
detract from what would otherwise be a really good run.
mm,
Even runs I like. They're like recently, Ryan North Fantastic Four. It had an event comic recently where Doom becomes the Sorcerer Supreme, and it is ridiculous. I'm just like, can I just read the run, please? No, because event comic. Screw
yeah,
you. There you go.
yeah.
Yeah,
You have a story going on, and then suddenly you have to have an issue where everybody in New York is attacked by demons. You know,
exactly. Just like
just because it's part of some gigantic event that you don't want to read.
yeah, exactly.
That
I hate
yeah,
that.
event comics have been kind of the curse of comic books, but at the same time, somebody must buy them because
Oh, there are
yeah,
some times where they're actually awesome, like Secret
mm,
Wars. If all the event comics could be like Secret Wars from Jonathan Hickman, awesome. I would buy those.
yeah.
Not all of them are like, not a lot of them are like
Most of
that.
them are not, you
Most of
know,
them are not.
yeah, yeah, and most of them are pretty forgettable, you
Oh,
know. Uh,
I'm just,
part of the part of the comic book business,
I
you
know.
know.
It's just, that's why I've stopped reading like Batman regularly, the Batman titles, because there are just so many flippin' event comics, and I'm just like, are you serious right now? Like, come on, guys. Trying to, God, I'm trying not to swear here. Now, I am wanting to read the Matt Fraction run because apparently he's kind of trying to do a back to basics type of
Yeah,
approach to
I hear good
Batman,
things about that too.
and I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh, thank you, Jesus, finally. They're not just ripping off Frank Miller or Grant Morrison anymore.
Well,
The
Batman is that has been at an interesting place for a while, just because there's so much built up continuity with Batman to the point where you have like 4 or 5 Robins now. I can't even keep track. And uh, it's interesting. How do you go back to basics with Batman with all of that kind of
I
continuity
guess what I mean
baggage?
by that is like just tell fun stories and like don't worry
Mhm.
about like Gotham City ending events as much.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, the Joker and the Riddler and the Scarecrow, oh, they're just teaming up again to to blow up Gotham City. And oh, by the way, Darkseid's involved. And you're like, what? What? I just want to see
Well, I guess the
Batman brood and beat up criminals and be a father to the Robins. Like, that's what I want to
well,
see.
I guess the granddaddy Batman event story, which is partially responsible for that, probably is Night's End. Remember Night's End? Or was it
Oh, man.
Nightfall?
The last one I
Uh,
read that I actually kind of liked was No Man's Land because it was actually an
mhm.
interesting concept and it was
Yeah.
mostly done well. Again, did it get convoluted? Oh yeah, it's an event comic. That's a
Hmm.
given. You know? Then you'll read like Nightfall, and you're just like, what? It's Bane broke Batman's back. What is so complicated about why? How is this? Why does this have to be so complicated? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's sometimes frustrating being a Batman fan. Well,
Oh yeah.
mainly when you read the
Yeah.
comics. The movies like are not as frustrating.
Really? You think so?
Well, do I want to go into the rabbit hole of things that bother me about Batman movies? I don't know, but I will say we were talking about angry, irrational nerd rage earlier. Like Batman's the one guy I will get the pitchfork out for. So there you
Yeah.
go.
Well, Batman's interesting. He's an interesting character because he's gone through so many different incarnations,
Yeah.
in his career. Uh, I mean, he had a pretty major change just in his first couple years. If you read Batman comics when they very first started,
Mm,
when he was by himself, he was the lone vigilante,
mm.
very much modeled on a kind of shadow spider kind of character.
With weird looking
All,
bat ears, by the way.
yeah, with weird bat ears and the
Like,
little
hold on, let me see if I
gloves
actually
and
have
yeah.
here. Let me see. Oh, yep. Here's my facsimile. Oh, wait, no.
Yeah.
This is like a Dick's. No, this isn't a. No, this isn't a. This isn't has the weird ears. Because I've seen
Which
some of
one is
those
that?
old Batman comics that have the like really long like
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had like
super and you're like what is that? Why are you doing
that.
that? But not
Yeah, they
here.
didn't.
So I don't know.
No, that didn't last very long though. His ears kind of straightened out and shortened, and there was a big change in Batman's character when Robin showed up, and Robin showed up pretty early.
Oh, that's probably why I have a Batman and Robin facsimile here.
You
So
know, that's the first issue of Batman, and Robin was already around because he had shown up in Detective Comics. And as soon as Robin showed up, Batman started smiling and he started cracking jokes, and he was just a different character than he was before Robin showed up. He was a much more successful character after Robin showed up. People really liked Robin at the time.
yeah, I have a soft spot for Robin. I like Dick Grayson particularly
Mm-hmm.
because I like the originals. But
Mm-hmm.
I did see you guys do what was that? Death in the Family, and that was pretty funny because I agree with most of those criticisms. It is really stupid. And that's another one I just shake my head. I go like, you have a really good story in there. It's just like, why is the Joker the frickin' Shah of Iran? It's like,
Exactly.
why?
There was a lot of goofiness.
Look, don't get me wrong.
And
I love me some superhero goofiness.
yeah,
Like that's part of the charm of the genre. I got that. But like, why? What?
but it's in the same story where he literally beats a kid to death with a crowbar, and it was just a weird thing.
It's such a
Um,
weird tone shift. I'm like,
it was.
you've
Yeah.
gone from the flipping like killing joke over here, and now you're in like Adam West territory. And even then, I don't know if Adam West would go that far as have Cesar Romero dress up as a Shah of Iran. You
Well,
know?
that might happen, frankly, in that show. I could see that very much. But I think all of that is just part of the multiple versions of Batman over time they kind of overlap sometimes, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I always felt like the animated series kind of, because I love the animated series to an irrational degree, but I always felt like it got that balance right. Like, it's dark, it's tragic, but it's also fun.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
it really,
ideally, if it's not
yeah.
the kind of Dark Knight trilogy kind of Batman, like, that's my idea what I think Batman should be like if I were writing him. Now, I know it's probably not possible because of continuity, but, you know, a man can dream.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible. But yeah, the Batman animated series got it just right.
Yeah.
I thought it got all the it was
Also, Dad also introduced me to some of my favorite like Batman stories, like the Laughing Fish. Like that's great. I love
yeah,
that. It's the perfect amount of camp and the Joker just
yeah.
being an absolute lunatic.
Yeah, it was a good series. I remember watching that specifically on the night it premiered. I remember that.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that must have been
Yeah.
awesome.
It was awesome. It was awesome. Yeah. I remember that. We're watching it on a little TV. Yeah.
Yeah,
Me and a
no,
girl I
I
liked a
just
lot at the time. Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm just kind of like, oh man, if you could do the tone a little bit like that, you don't have to
Mhm.
replicate it. Like I was joking with I had a guy named Tim Callahan on here, and I was like, sometimes I wish I could just walk into DC Comics with the Justice League animated TV show that they did,
Mhm.
slap that down on the desk or wherever the executives are, and go like, hey guys, do that. Whatever you do, watch that and then give them to your creatives and let them do that, and you'll be crystal,
Mhm.
and then walk out. You don't even need to give me money. You don't even need to give me credit. I'm just here to spread the good word. Just do that. Just do that. Just do all of that.
Yeah,
I know
I
it's
have to
probably
say
complicated, but like, come on, man.
I think that it must be more complicated than we're thinking because you would think it wouldn't be that hard to come up with versions of the characters that people wanted to read. You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but it seems to be a difficulty, you know.
Hmm. Yeah.
But
I just
whatever.
I don't know. I don't know. It's like you got it right. You got the blueprint right there. You can do it,
Yeah,
but you're not doing it, and it's I don't know. I don't know. But it's a thing. I don't get it. I've never gotten it really, but I still love these characters. So what are you gonna
oh
do?
yeah, they're great. Clearly, I love them as well, and always have. I admit it's been a long time since I've read any new Marvel comics. Um,
You know,
I feel I
I
feel like DC has done a better job overall.
you know I sometimes see some of going back to Steve Donoghue. It's like his ghost is hovering over us at the moment.
Hmm.
I hope he's not dead, by the way. But
Yeah.
it's like his specter is like over
Hmm.
us. Like. But I've seen him I've seen him go on rants about like the comic publishers just hating their audience, and I'm just like, you know, I'm starting to wonder if Marvel just hates their audience because there have just been
Hmm.
decisions they've made in recent years, especially with the character of Spider-Man, that just make
Hmm.
no sense whatsoever. That just seem mean spirited.
I think I think it's more likely. I mean, I don't know,
I was about to say, I'm
but
sure you have a more balanced perspective on this
I
than
think
I
it's
do.
more likely that they're disconnected
Uh
from their
huh.
audience and that they have a different view about who their audience is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think Steve is right in one thing in that comic book publishers are often writing or creating books for an audience, for a larger audience, right? An
Mm-hmm.
audience they want to attract,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but that audience doesn't really exist. And even the younger readers of comics prefer older versions of the characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like these DC Finest volumes have been very successful and Epic collections have been very successful, not just because old guys like me are reading them. A lot of younger people are picking those up
Oh yeah.
because they want to find out where these characters came from and they enjoy the stories.
Uh huh.
They're and I think publishers probably catch on to that. You know, um, there's you shouldn't mess with characters too much. You've
Yeah.
got to keep them grounded in who those characters are. You
Yeah.
know, and I think sometimes publishers just don't do that. You know,
There's also the
um,
fact I don't like the symbiotes. Like, just stop with the flipping symbiotes. Just stop. All right. Venom was fun when he was around, but also that Donny Cates run with Venom was pretty good. But aside from that, I'm just stop with the Venom, man. Good God, that's out of date in the '90s.
the '90s.
That must have been a fun time being in the '90s and seeing like the image boom happened. Grant Moore.
I would actually say that the '90s, for the most part, was a stressful time to be a comic book fan. Because comic books went in the '80s affected the '90s in a weird way, in that the '90s wanted to try to capture the magic, and they went whole hog in a very gritty direction that just became weird, you know. And
Going back to the weird conversation here. I love
but
this.
it was weird in a very '90s way, and
Pouch, like
I
the
think
endless pouches.
yeah, like the endless leg pouches. Who has a pouch on their leg? Everyone, apparently.
Everyone, if Rob Liefeld's drawing them, probably.
All the women look like wasps. It's just weird.
I
And
did see you guys this video on Rob Liefeld's Captain America.
oh,
Oh
that
my
was the worst thing in the world. It was literally the worst comic book ever produced, I think. It was terrible in every way.
man, really? Even over like Holy Terror?
Yes, it was worse than that. It was just crap. And it was replacing a great version of Captain America, which made it even worse,
Oh
you know.
man, yeah, that's right. That's the
Because Mark Waid was on it, and he was on Captain America.
yeah.
And
What's weird? I've been looking back at like Marvel and DC in the '90s. Like DC, from all accounts, actually had like some really good solid runs during that time. Like DC
yeah,
was kind of on a roll during that time. It was
yeah,
Marvel that was
DC didn't go insane like they did at Marvel, but
yeah.
also
Marvel
DC
just
did.
like yeah, something happened over there to the editorial staff or something.
Marvel was having trouble. They were losing money. They were going bankrupt, and they forgot who their characters were. You know, Thor became terrible. Thor was just terrible. The Avengers were not great. Um, you had a lot of comics that just started to really suck, and they didn't know how to turn that around. Iron Man was the worst.
Oh God,
They
I've never been
turned
an
to-
Iron Man fan. I mean, I like him in the movies, but I've never been like a fan. So
well, you wouldn't be a fan if you read those comics, because they literally turned Tony Stark into a serial killer.
what?
They turned him into a villain, and then they had to replace him with a teenage version of himself from the past before he went insane. It was stupid. It was probably the worst comic ever. But at the same time, you did have some comics that were consistently good. Captain America was consistently good throughout the '90s,
Yeah, that's the
even
Wade run, right?
even before Wade.
Oh,
He wasn't great, but he was good. And I think it's because the people on Captain America knew who Captain America was, you know, and Mark Waid certainly did. Um, and so you had some comics that were good, but you had a lot of awful stuff, and that's why the whole Heroes Reborn thing happened, because they couldn't. They figured, well, the Image guys are doing well. Let's just give them money and have them do our comics. You know,
no,
it
that is a
it
terrible
didn't
idea.
it
Never
didn't
thought
go
that was a good
well.
idea. Should get fired. Just
Yeah, it, I'm sure lots of people got fired. I'm sure people got
yeah.
fired over
When I was
that.
watching your video about Rob Liefeld Captain America, I was like, yo, is that real? That can't be real. That no. And then you kept showing panels. I'm like, this looks real. I can't believe they published that.
They did. They
They
published
basically
it for
tried to
like
pull a Mr. Miracle, or not Mr. Miracle. They tried to pull an Alan Moore Miracle Man on Captain America. I'm like, what are you doing?
yeah, but unfortunately, Alan Moore was not available. If only he was.
Oh man,
Instead, we get Rob Liefeld, who was it was it was it was insanely bad. It was legendarily bad, and um, eventually they're going to put that in Epic Collection. I can't wait to see that.
Oh God, that's
They've avoided it. They published the one right before it and the one right after, but they've avoided that one. But
oh.
eventually, someday, they're going to have to do it. Yeah.
Well, you know what? You know what's funny? I'm reading a book called Super Gods by Grant Morrison right now, which is kind
Mm.
of if you know Grant, I'm doing a whole series on my channel where I'm reading a bunch of Grant Morrison comics this year. So hopefully my mind will be expanded by the time December shows up. But it's basically like his study of the superhero genre, aka him just kind of going on a kind of a rant about like why superheroes are awesome slash my autobiography. It's kind of I remember I read one piece of criticism where it said that it's like 3 books in one, and I agree. It's definitely it's very strange. But anyway,
Well, he is the incomprehensible Grant
this is
Morrison, so
true.
that's
This is
probably
true.
why.
He is the incomprehensible Grant Morrison. But the point I'm trying to get at is he called the early Image comics cocaine comics, and I'm like, that is the best way to describe those comics because oh man,
Yeah, it was weird.
it's
It
just
was
visual crack,
yeah. It was
visual ed on the page. You're just like, what is
yeah.
this?
I mean, the one thing I could say is that Marvel did learn its lesson at that time, because as soon as it was over, their comics got good again. I remember that. Like Avengers kicked ass when it came back, and they got Mark Waid back for Captain America. They're like, "We're sorry, we ever let you go. Come back." And so he came back and continued his run,
They
as
got
if
they got Bendis
as if
for
it
Daredevil.
yeah yeah as if it never happened. And they came out with some good comics after that, I have to say.
Yeah,
Um,
that early 2000s period for Marvel, I really like. Like Bendis's Daredevil came out at that time, and
mm,
Brubaker's Captain America, and it's a little later on. But Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four, Punisher
mm.
Max for me, I think that's great. But it might be a little hardcore for some people. A bit.
He is that type of character, though.
This is
That's who
true.
he is. Yeah.
You know what I don't want to like I don't want to like hassle you with ideas for Epic Comic Book Wednesday, but it would be fun to see you guys do Welcome Back Frank from Garthis. Just to see Steve's reaction to the
That's a
Punisher
good
punching a polar bear in the face. I want to see that.
idea, actually.
Like a
I mean,
sadistic part of me would love to see that.
there's certain characters I'm holding in reserve just to torture him, and that might be one. Like Moon Knight. I've been holding on to Moon Knight because I know he hates Moon Knight, and I love Moon Knight. So eventually, I'll throw that down. Yeah,
No,
but
but I know another comic company you like that's not really well. They've made a comeback with some glorious Greg Smallwood covers, but talk about EC Comics.
oh yeah, easy.
And I wanted to try EC for a very long time, and I don't know. I know they have like trades and stuff out for
Mm.
some of the old stuff. I don't know where. The only thing I have read that is remotely EC or well, I do like Mad Magazine quite a bit, but like early Mad, I've read like Super Duper Man. I don't know if you've read that. I hope you've read that,
I've read that. Yeah,
which
yeah,
is great, which might be the best superhero parody of all time, in
yeah.
my humble
E-
opinion.
in my opinion, EC Comics was the greatest comic book company that ever existed, and they only did their great comics in a few years. It was like the
Yeah,
early
like what a
50s.
massive talent,
It was amazing. It was
like
amazing.
Harvey Kurtzman. Yeah, Wally.
Mm,
I like Wally West quite a bit.
mhm.
Like I've seen like there's one. It's by a guy. I think it's Bernard Kriegstein.
Kriegstein, yeah, 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 yeah,
And
yeah.
there's like an issue where it's like it looks like the dude's moving or something. It looks like he's falling over, and I'm like,
That particular story is one of the greatest stories in that's ever been done in
yo,
comic
I want to
books.
read that. I want
Yeah,
to see that. I want to see what that's
yeah,
about. That looks awesome.
yeah.
I don't know where to start though. That's
Um, I don't know if you can still get it, but they had a collection. EC had a hardcover collection called was like Gasp something, Choke a Gasp or something. It was basically their best of collection.
mhm.
It's the closest thing that you'll get to an EC Comics omnibus, for example,
Mm-mm-mm.
where they would divide it up by artist, and it had their ideas of what the artist's greatest stories were, and
Mm-hmm.
that book is packed full of some of the greatest EC Comics ever. And so, if you wanted an idea of why this company was so great, that would be a good place to start. I'm not sure it's still available. I got it years ago. Um, but yeah, Dark Horse publishes these big trade editions, and you'll notice if you read them in order that the earlier horror comics, for example, are kind of tame. They're really tame, actually. But by the time they start picking up steam in volume 2 or 3, they are like nothing you've ever read. They are amazing. They're just incredible. You know, uh, the amount of just sheer gore and grisly awfulness that you'll find is just it's insane. And it was incredible, and I love their science fiction comics. Love them. Weird Science is
I've heard
and
Weird
Weird
Science
Fantasy.
and like I've heard all
Yeah.
of them are worth a read, but I've heard like one's called The Master Race that I've heard is
Hmm.
like it's great, and then like Weird Science.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
want to
You.
read Weird Science because I like Wally Wood quite a bit.
Yeah, and that became his comic. Where he did all of this amazing stuff. Plus, Al Williamson was in that, and it's amazing. It was incredible stuff. Again, Steve Donoghue hates it all because it's all horror and science fiction and not superheroes. But the great thing about comic books is that it's a medium that can tell any kind of story,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and there is no limit as far as budget is concerned. Uh, it's all the only limitations are the limitations of the artist's talent and the writer's talent and your own imagination,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because all those things have to work together. Uh, but it's a fantastic medium, comic books, and EC took advantage of that particular type of medium in a way that probably hasn't been done since. They told every kind of story in their different comic books. They had a great action comic book called Two Fisted Tales that was just amazing. And
Isn't that one like Kurtzman did?
yeah, he was in that a lot, and the Severins were in that a lot, and it was great. And again, I think Dark Horse reprinted all of that, or at least most of
That's
it so
nice.
far.
I've seen
Yeah.
those, but I'm just kind of like, damn, where do I start with those? Because I've seen some of them in my local comic shop, and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah.
Well, the good thing about those is you could really start anywhere. I mean, they are all. It's an anthology. Every comic was an anthology series. There are no continuing stories, no continuing characters. They're all short stories.
Oh yeah, the other story I know of is like I think it's part of Weird Science, and the big twist is that the guy's a black guy.
Yes, that was the big twist. It
Which
was the '50s, man.
which you know I'm trying to cut him some grace. I get it's like you read some of the pulps, you know, and you're like, okay, there's probably some attitudes here that are
No, that story was
but like the whole twist being it's a black dude does sound a
well.
little silly. I know for the time. I'm
Well,
curious to see how
if
how
you
it's pulled
read it,
off, but
it's not silly
okay.
because you never see the guy. He's in a spacesuit the whole time,
Uh-huh.
and he's dealing with these aliens, and the problems the aliens have is that they can't get along, right?
Oh
They're
yeah.
racist aliens, and so it's a story about racism basically.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And if you put it in the context of the time where society was incredibly racist, we're racist now, but back then it was just really, really racist. And so EC was you know, they they were a group of writers who were progressive,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that was important. But the to tell you how racist the time was, they destroyed the whole point of that comic when it was originally published because the publisher wouldn't let that comic go out as it was. They
Mm-hmm.
made him a white guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
and and they didn't publish the original version until years and years later. But EC was very progressive, and they wrote some of their most terrifying stories in a comic book called Shock Suspense Stories.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they would write stories about lynchings and corrupt police officers, and I mean, stuff that you would not see in comic books today. You know, it was incredible
Yeah,
stuff.
I've heard EC gets pretty graphic even by today's standards.
Very graphic and brave. They were a brave comic book company. If you look at some of the stories that they were writing and what they were writing about, they had their goofy and silly horror comic books.
Mm.
But if you read some of their crime comic books, that stuff was important stuff, and it was socially important. And I
Yeah,
think
I've
that
thought
probably
about checking out their crime comics because like I do like good crime comics when I can read, mostly if it's Ed Brubaker writing them. But
yeah.
um,
Well, if you ever see shock suspense stories, pick up one of those, any one of those, because that was some of the most terrifying and visceral and interesting and well written comics that you'll ever find. And particularly when they were published,
mm-hmm.
uh, that time in America, you just didn't get stories like that anyplace outside of this company. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, they were shut down. And
Yeah, no, Friedrich Wertham, if you've ever.
mm-hmm.
I did read at least parts of Seduction of the Innocent, and it's pretty dumb nowadays. But it's kind of crazy to think how many people actually bought into that back then.
Yeah, it's
Again,
it's the
maybe it's
same.
me being a
It's
young whippersnapper. I don't know.
Well, that's part of it because since then we've had a lot of outcries like that, and so now we could see them as being nonsense, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the 1980s satanic fear, where
Yeah.
people thought Satanism was everywhere in music and in everything else, and then people blamed violence on video games
Mm-hmm.
later on, and before that, Dungeons and Dragons was evil,
Yeah.
because I mean, there's a lot of kind of thing that happens over and over and over again in society. So at this point, we could pretty much tell it when we see it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think probably in the 1950s, for parents in the 1950s, they hadn't seen a lot of that, and so it was easier to be fooled. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
And one thing I'm actually hoping to get because I don't know if you've ever read like any of Eric Powell's comics like The Goon, but he did a
oh, the Goon, yeah, the Goon is awesome. Yeah.
I've only read this first. Well, it's great, but anyway, one of the I got the first omnibus. It's great, but he did a biographical comic about Friedrich Wertham, and I was thinking about picking it up because I really like the last one he did about Ed Gein. It's with the same guy.
That
So
would be interesting. I didn't know that existed.
yeah, yeah, mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah, that would definitely be interesting to read.
Yeah, I wanna pick that up. And he also I don't know I don't know if you've read the Ed Gein one or even
I know of its existence, but I haven't
right.
read it yet.
I don't know
No.
how well you know Eric Powell's stuff, but he does kind of have that like pulpy. I haven't read a lot of EC, but
Mm.
that kind of pulpy EC vibe, if you will.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think you would like that.
Yeah.
It has
Yeah. I
that kind
probably
of
would.
like here's back in the day, Ed Gein cut up some ladies, that thing.
Yeah. You recommended a book that you said I should read a while ago. Was it Black Hammer?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. I actually should read that. I've had that forever. The I have the first, I guess, omnibus volume.
Oh yeah, that's some of the best stuff in
Yeah.
there, which is the first like 12 issues, which is
Yeah.
for my money some of the best comic books in recent memory. But
Yeah. I definitely have to read that.
it's very interesting considering like I'm kind of fascinated with like lineages, if you want to call it that.
Hmm.
Watchmen kind of started this whole thing, and there are books that have responded to Watchmen. There are books that have kind of reflected Watchmen and whatnot. But I find Black Hammer interesting because it's kind of doing its own thing. It's kind of like the Twilight Zone, but with
Hmm.
superheroes, and it's really neat. It's really really cool.
Yeah. It looks that way. And it's funny you mentioned Watchmen. I remember when Watchmen came out.
Yeah, I was about to say
And
you're a bit of old whippersnapper, so
yeah,
you're a bit
well,
so you were probably
yeah.
around when Watchmen was coming
Oh
out.
yeah, I read it month to month. I remember that
That
first
must have been
issue.
crazy.
I remember reading that first issue of Watchmen, and was just like, damn, this is something, you know?
Yeah, no, I can't even imagine what it was like reading the 11th, or I can't remember which issue it was where he goes, "Do it." It's like, what are you guys talking about? You think I'm some kind of supervillain? I did it 35 minutes ago, and that's the end of the
Yes.
comic. That must have been insane. I don't know how I would have been able to wait for if I were collecting issues at that point.
Well, that was, I remember distinctly reading that issue to issue to issue as it came out monthly.
Mm.
And it was just great. And it was great right up until the ending. And then they
Not
stole
a
it.
fan of the psychic squid.
No, it was weird because they stole that plot from Outer Limits.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they did.
And it
Yeah.
was, and recognizably so. As soon as you see what's going on, you're like, wait a minute, this was an Outer Limits episode. So I felt like it was great right up until the ending. I actually think the film probably came up with a better ending
Mm.
than Watchmen did, the original series. But that's okay because up until then it was great.
Yeah.
And that last scene was great too.
Yeah, you know what drives me flipping, you know what drives me nuts about Watchmen? People keep calling it the Watchmen. And I'm like, no, it is just Watchmen. Get rid of the, please. Thank you.
But it's interesting to see what it's become,
Yeah, no.
because
Yeah.
there was no inkling of that when it came out. It was very popular in that people were saying, "Wow, this book is great," but we certainly, it could have just disappeared. We never expected it to become a big deal and to be considered a novel that would be in like 100 greatest novels lists. That just is just a strange thing. But yeah, I remember that.
You
That
know,
was awesome.
as I grow older, I think Swamp Thing is probably my favorite thing Alan Moore ever did. But
Yeah, that's fair.
it's just, oh man, there's like a raw, like, creative synergy in that book that is
Hmm.
just like, at least I do think it kind of peters out toward the end, but those,
Yeah,
like,
I would agree.
when he first started, like, all the way up to, like, the crisis bit, like, to the bit where he goes to Gotham and basically turns it into a jungle, like, that is
Right.
like some of the
Yeah,
greatest comics that have ever been
that
made in
was
the history
awesome.
of man.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, I
but yeah,
agree.
it's just,
Well, I always had a soft spot for that character, so you can imagine how happy I was when Alan Moore took it over.
man,
Because I was I was
were
I
you
was
around
reading.
when the Anatomy lesson first came out? Like, did you read it when it first came out?
I have all those issues. I never got rid of them,
Like,
and
did you
so
read them
I
when
was.
they came out?
Oh yeah, month to month.
That must have been
I was reading.
crazy reading.
I was reading Swamp Thing for years, and collecting Swamp Thing for years before Alan Moore did it.
That must have been fun seeing, like, that, because that first issue is kind of just him walking around and then he gets shot and dropped, and then the
Yeah,
anatomy lesson happened and you're like,
yeah,
what?
that was great because like his first issue, it's literally called Loose Ends
Uh-huh.
because he has to tie up all the weird loose ends that were left over from the previous writer so that he could do his own thing, and I think he did a good job of that.
Mm-hmm.
But Anatomy Lesson was amazing because he completely changed the character and at the same time didn't change the character at all,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because this turns out this is the character that we've been following this whole time, who we thought was Alec Holland. No, he's not. He's a plant that thinks he's Alec Holland,
It's
which is a pretty
genius.
big difference. It is genius. It was amazing to read, and it just kept staying amazing as you kept reading it. And so you could, as soon as that issue hit and you read it, you're like, wow, this is something. It was a big deal, Swamp Thing,
Yeah, and there's
and it
just like,
never was before that.
like, there's a raw creativity in that run that isn't in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of Alan Moore stuff that I really appreciate.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you
He
know,
was hitting it on all cylinders on Swamp Thing for a long
Oh
time.
man, yeah, and also the art, like, it's genuinely some of the, like, like, I don't get creeped out by comic book art all that much,
Mm-hmm.
but man, Steve Bissette and John Toddleben, like, I don't know, like especially with the close-ups and you see like the pores on their
Mm-hmm.
faces and stuff.
Yeah.
No, it's
Well,
crazy.
well, comic book horror comic book art is difficult to do, and I think Swamp Thing did it really, really well. And I think it always had it was a comic that always managed that for the most part to do really good horror comic book art.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to do horror in comic books because you, unlike in films or even in books, you see what's coming, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You flip through, you know what's coming. It's hard to have a shocking surprise in a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
You have to really be careful how you do it, and it's probably going to get spoiled because you're probably going to flip through it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
you need to rely on other things, and just pure creepiness is one of the most valuable things a comic book artist can have as far as horror is concerned. And they really pulled that off in Swamp Thing. There are just some nightmarish images and characters and things going on in that comic book that just don't leave your brain after you set down the issue.
Oh yeah,
And
it's
yeah,
brilliant. It's really brilliant stuff. I want to go read it
yeah,
again now.
yeah. And Alan Moore was doing that month after month after month.
I don't know how he did it. I really don't. Just
Yeah,
it's so good. It
it's so good.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sucks Steve didn't take to it because I was going on because I commented down below and I'm like, oh man, anatomy lesson's great, and he's like, what am I gonna do with you? And I'm like,
Well, you know what?
you're,
Here's
I'm
the
like,
thing.
you know what?
Here's the
You're silly, old man. Go away. Like,
Steve. I could talk about Steve because he's a dear friend, and I visited him before in
I was about to say
Boston. I'm going back,
you've actually gone across country to go meet him.
and I'm going to go across country again in about a month to see him again,
Oh, very nice.
uh, because I love the guy. Here's the thing with Steve: when he says something is good, it's probably really, really good. If he says something is bad, there's a good chance it's really, really good. Because,
Even the John Byrne Superman.
well, there are good things about that.
Okay, okay,
That is
okay.
not all bad. Um,
No,
but
you're right though.
I remember early in the days of Epic Comic Book Wednesdays years ago, I chose Fantastic Four #1, which I just assumed everybody would love. He hates Fantastic Four #1, and he crapped all over that issue and said how terrible it was. And I was shocked. I couldn't believe my ears when I heard what he was saying. It's like, what are you talking? How could you? I was offended.
It's like that is probably the most influential superhero. Well, maybe that single issue isn't, but that whole run is probably the superhero
Yeah,
run of all time. Like
yeah.
every
It's
superhero comic that has come
yeah,
since then, aside from maybe Action Comics 1,
yeah.
like the influence is just insurmountable.
And he's right. Sometimes Avengers #1 was pretty crap, but Fantastic Four #1, that was a good comic book, I thought. And so as soon as I suffered through that experience, I kind of got, okay, I'm going to Steve just hates some things that I'm going to love. And I love a lot of things that he hates. And that's just the way it's going to be. I mean, I'm a Bronze Age guy. I love all those horror comic books from the Bronze Age. I love Werewolf
Yeah,
by
you like a
Night
lot of those
and
like
all that stuff.
weird. You like a lot of
Yeah.
those like weird like
Mm-hmm.
horror comics that Marvel and
Mm-hmm.
DC tried to do in the like 70s and
Yeah, I
80s,
love them.
which
Love them. Yeah.
that's interesting because
Yeah.
like I grew up, I read like I read like I have a framed copy of Fantastic Four #1 up there because I just think some of the first I have a soft spot for that run because it's some of the first comics I remember reading.
Mm-hmm.
I also liked a lot of those like weird old like war comics that like Stanley and Jack Kirby did, like the Howling
Right.
Commandos.
Howling Commandos. Yeah.
Um, that would be a fun one to see. But no, uh, but it's like it's fun.
Well, there was some interesting stuff going on in the Bronze Age. I liked
Like
all the
the
horror
Tomb of
comic books.
Dracula. Like what is
Yeah,
that?
the Tomb of Dracula is a masterpiece. It is.
I'll have to find that, but I just kind of it's just funny because like a lot of people think of the 80s as like when like Marvel and DC finally kind of grew up, for lack of a better word, but they were doing some interesting stuff in the 70s, like Howard the Duck, like
Yeah, Howard the Duck is a whole other thing, and
going back to my fondness for like weirder characters, like Howard the Duck, like that. I love me some Howard the Duck.
yeah, we haven't done that on a comic book Wednesday. That would really drive Steve up the wall.
Not a fan
So
of
we'll have to
funny
do
animal
that.
comics.
Yeah, but Tomb of Dracula was great because most of it was written by Marv Wolfman, and it was all drawn by Gene Colan. So you had a whole run drawn by one guy, and
that is definitely nice, because that's the annoying thing about old comics. A lot of the talent would. It's a pain in the ass reading Sandman sometimes, because he did not have a consistent artist, and it's just annoying,
Yeah. And so Tomb of Dracula kind of exists as this single work, and it's an awesome comic. It's a great comic book, and definitely the most successful and the best of Marvel's horror comic books, that's for sure. But I always liked the weirder stuff, and at DC Comics you had
oh yeah, I love the DC supernatural stuff, like Swamp Thing and
they had House of Secrets and House of
Yeah.
Mystery, which are pretty tame, particularly if you had
John
read DC
Constantine
Comics.
or Etrick and the Demon, or even some, if you really want to get on the weird stuff. I always I get these two mixed up. It's Kamandi and Clarion the Witch Boy. I called him Kamandi the Witch Boy on another podcast. I was like,
no, Kamandi is the last boy on Earth.
Yeah, no, but like Clarion the Witch Boy, I'm like, that is a great.
Yeah.
Another Jack Kirby character, by the way.
Yeah, Jack Kirby came up with some really weird stuff in the 70s, and I'm a sucker for all of that stuff. And
you read any of the New Gods stuff?
Yeah, I read all of the New Gods stuff.
Yeah, I had a buddy who read the same friend of mine who was telling me about Death in the Family. He's like, "Yo, I read Fourth World, and I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not bad." And I'm like, "All right, I'll check it out." I was always kind of wary of it because, like, I mean, Jack Kirby off the leash, I'm sure, is a glorious thing, but I've heard his dialogue is just bad.
Well, he's not a good writer, and he just isn't. And but creatively, he's really interesting, and his art is just off the hook in the 1970s. So that was fun. But yeah, he's a terrible writer, which is probably most evident in Black Panther, because you had this really solid, great Black Panther run, and then Jack Kirby took the book over, and it was instantly crap. It was just, the tonal shift was amazing, and I mean, his Captain America was just a weird thing when he came back to write it. So yeah, as a writer, he wasn't great, but he was really good at coming up with larger than life ideas and characters and situations. And usually his comics were worth reading just because of that.
There's this one character who like skied that my friend was telling me about, and he wore like these galactic skis, and he's
God,
like, "That
what's
was
his name? I'm forgetting his name now."
And he did tell me that was stupid, but aside from that, he actually enjoyed the Fourth World. So I mean,
well, there's a lot of stuff like that in the Fourth World. Like the skiing.
It's kind of like reading Steve Ditko's Mr. A. It's kind of like, what is this? I kind of dig it, but it's really flippin' weird at the same time. I keep saying flippin' for some reason.
Yeah, Steve Ditko was gloriously uptight.
Yeah.
And
with these like barely restrained like monologues / lectures about why this guy's objectively evil and we should like get rid of him, and by the way, A is A. So
yeah,
don't scam people.
There's black and white and nothing else.
Yeah,
there's good and there's evil, and there are no shades of gray, which is an insane a way to think of the world, but that is the way Steve Ditko thought of the world, and which is not reality. But he was an interesting fella, and passionately devoted to his ideas, wrong as they were. And hey, we ended up with Rorschach in Watchmen because of him.
True.
So
also just interesting names. Like the one that always makes me laugh. Like I thought Dick Sprang was a type of like joke name, like a pen name. No, apparently it was the guy's name. Which poor guy. I bet he was bullied relentlessly when he was a kid. Probably,
but he's one of the best Batman artists ever.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
He's amazing, and yeah, he did a lot of those old World's Finest comics. I think he did a lot of those, and he was great. He was just great. Yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah, no. But yeah, you like a lot of like old. I did really like that in your top 10 comic artists. You said Steve Ditko, because I actually prefer Ditko to Jack Kirby as much as I definitely respect Jack Kirby as a creative force.
Well, Ditko was great in the early '60s, right before he got onto Spider-Man. He did all those weird horror comics for
Mm-hmm.
Marvel before it became Marvel, and he was just perfect on Spider-Man. I mean, it was like the perfect comic book for him, and it was so weird and
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
quirky and
I really
strange.
like Doctor Strange stuff as well, but yeah,
His his yeah, his
I
Doctor
still
Strange stuff is amazing. Yeah.
I still think Spider-Man is probably his magnum opus. So
Oh, I think so too. Uh, Artistically, it's a tough call between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, but
It's all great. Yeah.
yeah, and then he just kind of went off to do Mr. A and these weird like indie comics. You're like, what is he doing?
Yeah, well, he wanted that creative control,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and he wanted to do his own thing, and he would do a lot of work for hire, and you could always tell when he didn't care about what he was doing because it ended up being crap, you know. But every once in a while, he would get in a comic, even in the '80s, and be good, you know. He was good on ROM, which is shocking to me, but he was actually good on ROM, and he was good on Indiana Jones.
Huh.
So,
I did.
which are
I
which is weird, but
I
he was
did see
good.
his name on the Etrigan DC Finest that they
Yeah,
put out.
he'll sneak into some strange places. He did a few issues of Blue Beetle, which were not bad.
Yeah, have you read
Um,
any of the Charlton stuff? Because that was a big inspiration to Watchmen.
I've read a lot of Charlton stuff. It has to be said that it's not great, but
I'd say
it's
my favorite like pure Ditko character is probably the Question, but
yes, I think you're right. I
he's
think
my
you're right.
favorite. It's just perfect like Ditko weirdness,
Yes.
but also restrained because there was an editor who's like, "Hey Steve, that's probably not a good idea."
Yeah. Yeah. But he needed some restraint, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, it's like Grant Morrison. When you really fully let him off the leash, he's the incomprehensible. Uh,
Yeah.
Grant Morrison, as you've called him. I'm actually about to read his Doom Patrol soon. I know you're quite fond of the Doom Patrol.
I
So,
love the Doom Patrol. Yeah.
and Steve
Or
doesn't like the Doom
as Steve
Patrol.
calls them, the loser patrol. Steve calls them the loser patrol, which is fair. You know, that's kind of their charm.
There's
You
just
know,
something.
they're
It's just so weird. Like he calls him the Poop Patrol, and I'm just like, dude, are you 13? Like what?
when it comes to this, he's 13 years old.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's also funny. I'm just like, damn, dude.
But Doom Patrol was weird and wonderful from the start. And when Grant Morrison got his hands on him, it was just a whole nother thing. It was awesome.
I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to it. You know what I am? What I'm especially looking forward to? Flex Mentalo, because it is the
Hmm.
perfect type of just stupid power that is just
Hmm.
glorious.
Yeah.
He just flexes his muscles and influences reality. I'm like, that is great. That is pure comic book right there. That is what the
Yes.
medium should aspire to.
Yes, I
Is
agree.
Flex Mentalo.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. I'm biting at the bit here.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Doom Patrol. And his Doom Patrol was awesome. It has to be said. Yeah.
Anyway,
Grant
oh
Grant
sorry.
Morrison could be great and he can be not so great, but you know.
Yeah, like why'd you do all that weird stuff on the Invisibles, man? Like, come on. Anyway, well, we've been going on here for a while, and I am getting hungry,
Okay,
and
man.
I don't want to hold you hostage here, but
I
this was well
I
worth the
appreciate the
wait.
conversation. This was fun.
I really appreciate that you took the time, even though there was some weird snafus yesterday as of the recording of this, but
I'm glad I finally made it.
we made it, so we're good.
All right, man.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. But before I let you go,
Hmm.
if you have any social media, feel free to share it for anyone who's
You
curious.
know, I only have YouTube. I have nothing else. Just YouTube.
Not even
You
Blue
could find me
Sky.
there. Yeah.
Not even a MySpace.
No. No, believe it or not.
Anyway, you should check out Michael's channel. It's great if you want some good pulpy goodness and old school comics as well. But anyway, hopefully you all enjoyed this, and until next time.
I'll catch you then.